Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the New Japan Cup semifinals and finals. So this whole entire podcast episode on the Square Circle podcast, hosted by yours truly, Marie Shadows, will be the semifinals and the finals. The semifinals had David Finlay versus Zack Sabre Jr. on March 16th, 2025, and Shota Umino versus Shingo on March 17th, 2025. And then we're going to get into the finals, which was David Finlay versus Shota Umino on March 20th, 2025. But as always, some housekeeping notes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know by now, Fourth Wall is up and running. Fourth Wall is very similar to Patreon. We have a membership on Fourth Wall. We also have merchandise on Fourth Wall, and also have the tape study roadmap on Fourth Wall. If you are a wrestler, it does not matter what level of wrestler you are. If you're a veteran, starting out, somewhere in the middle, I offer one-on-one consultations for wrestlers of every single level in their career. I am basically your cheerleader, and I will review your matches, give you feedback tailored to what you want me to focus on, or if you want to do all the above, you can. There are two different ways to have that happen. You can have a drop-off tape study, one-time payment of $31, and I'm being very transparent with how much everything is, because on Twitter, other people make one-on-one consultations at $99 for an hour, while I'm here like, no, I appreciate your budget, and I think that everyone is budgeting, and we all have money problems. Just to be honest, we all do. So $31 for a one-time one-on-one consultation, just to see what I offer, what I talk about, how I think about moves, how I think about your character, how I can help you elevate, because all I want you to do is succeed in the wrestling business. And then there's also me being a cheerleader with you on a month-to-month basis, meaning that if you get the membership at $16 a month, you also get a 1-year comp, paid comp, to my wrestling newsletter that has extra stuff on there with extra pictures and writings and free content, plus more tape study stuff that I might put behind a wall, some interviews I might put behind a wall, some knowledge I might put behind a wall. But you get all of that for a 1-year comp if you decide to take a monthly $16 a month via Fourth Wall, if that makes sense. So if you want a monthly commitment to where I am going to be your cheerleader on a monthly basis, $16. I offer the same kind of things that I offer for the one-time payment of $31, but it is up to you and whatever your wallet can decide, because I take everybody's wallet into account. I do not say, hey, just give me, $99 and let's call it a day. No, that's too much money. You have other things to pay for. You got bills to pay for. You might want to get some new gear. You want to get some new merch to sell at your merchandise table. You have a life that is outside of wrestling, but wrestling is what you love. So to make it fair and easy, like I said, monthly commitment is $16 a month, and then also a one-time payment if you want to go that route is $31. That's what I offer. And I offer a breakdown and also a conversation, and to give you ideas on how to be the best version of whatever character you are portraying on the indies, and talk about social media if you have any questions about that. I am just your cheerleader to be in the corner and be like, you got this. The only reason why I am doing this is because I love professional wrestling. It is my passion. And by the way, if you visit the Fourth Wall, you get to know who I am and what I've done in WWE, the seminars that I attended, and what I do behind the scenes for other people, and commentary on the indies, my interviews, media press for MLW, and all of that. I am involved hands-on, and I love talking about wrestling and hosting. Eventually, the live streams will start up again. Hosting tape study chatter. If you are a wrestler, please come by any of the live streams that I will have running. The easiest way to know when I have a live stream is through Twitter at Marie_Shadows. If you sign up to the newsletter, I'll probably send out some stuff too, but emails like that for, hey, I'm going to be live streaming on such and such at the drop of the same day might get confusing because people have work and might miss the email. So Twitter is the best way to go about it. I'll find some other ways. There's also Discord too, if you guys have Discord. But we'll see. we'll check in with each other. So I would like to invite wrestlers to come over to watch the live streams for the tape study sessions. And that could be from anybody in the chat to recommend any kind of wrestling matches that we should watch. I break it down, I pause it. I even have some in my catalog underneath the banner of the Square Circle Podcast. The Square Circle Podcast has been going on for the past 6 years. This year being its 6th year, and I am very, very proud of everything that I have accomplished. And this is a big Square Circle Podcast project. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy this episode, please make sure to share it out, tell a friend. If you are on the YouTube side of things, youtube.com/Square Circle Podcasts, you can like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it out, leave a comment. I answer everybody's comments. If you're listening to this on marieshadows.substack.com, you could also leave a comment too, leave a like. You can also restack it, and you could also talk about it in the private wrestling group chat that we have in the Substack chat. If you are on Spotify, you can search Marie Shadows Square Circle Podcast on Spotify, and you can follow the channel, leave a review, and leave a star rating. So that way you can never miss an episode ever again on those platforms. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Square Circle Podcast around the world. Thank you guys for all the love. And now we are going to jump into the 3 last matches for this podcast episode. It's going to be a big podcast episode where I'm breaking down everything and giving you my thoughts. So let's jump right in. The New Japan Cup semifinal for March 16, 2025 is David Finlay versus Zack Sabre Jr. You guys know how I feel about technical wrestling. You guys know how I feel about Zack Sabre Jr. And you guys know how I feel about David Finlay. This match was really good, and I'm giving all the credit to David Finlay. As much as Zack Sabre Jr. can have a really good match, he is a technical wizard. I say this all the time. He's a technical wizard, but there's nothing else from Zack Sabre Jr. that will make me want to watch one of his matches again, that will make me want to be like, oh my God, I want to see more what he can do. It's all just wrestling. And you need a little bit more than just wrestling. While I do like technical wrestling matches, I do need to see something else in the match, along with the move for move and rope break into another move. You know, I need to see something else. David Finlay helps out in that regard to have a storytelling element in the match. We start with wrist control by both David Finlay and Zack Sabre Jr. However, Zack Sabre Jr. is in the lead with the wrist control. And you guys know that if a wrestler has wrist control, they have control of the match until the other opponent, the other wrestler, can get out of it and turn the tables and take advantage of the situation. But right now, in this technical wizard of an opening contest between these two guys who can get very technical, Zack Sabre Jr. was in the lead for this. To the point where Zack Sabre Jr. is working on David Finlay's arm, and he just brings him down to the mat, shoulder first, slams that shoulder right into the boards, even though it has the mat on it, just bring him down to the mat. David Finlay gets out of Zack Sabre Jr.'s hold on his arm and immediately goes after Zack Sabre Jr.'s leg and tries to apply a half crab. David could not get all of his weight on Zack Sabre Jr. to truly apply the half crab. And this has both Zack Sabre Jr. and David Finlay eventually just standing away from each other because Zack Sabre Jr. gets out of it. We get some exchanges of hard hits. David landing on the knees of Zack Sabre Jr. because David goes for a senton. Zack Sabre Jr. brings up his knees, and then Zack Sabre Jr. applies an arm bar, but quickly a rope break happens. Zack Sabre Jr. snaps David's hands and fingers. Such a nasty thing to do. Nasty thing. A huge backbreaker to Zack Sabre Jr. A suplex, twisting the ankles that Zack Sabre Jr. does to David Finlay's head to apply pressure on Finlay's head. We get another backbreaker. We get a guillotine choke by Zack Sabre Jr. Zack relies on that a little too much. We get some fighting on the outside. It becomes all chaotic. David Finlay with the power bomb, a counter. We get a Zack driver. We get a rope break from David a little bit later on. in the match. And we have this like super submission that Zack Sabre Jr. puts on David Finlay. But David Finlay again gets to the ropes and causes a rope break. Heading towards the end of the match, we get a spear by David to Zack Sabre Jr., a rebound lariat into oblivion. Zack Sabre Jr. kicks out. And then David does this beautiful gator roll that I love when he does it because it just looks so smooth. This gator roll into the knee strike. The knee strike where he picks him up as if like it's going to be a suplex, but then he crashes the guy down directly chest first into his knee. And David goes for the cover, 1, 2, 3, and wins against Zack Sabre Jr. So that means that David Finlay goes to the finals, and we'll talk about the finals in this episode. Just give me a chance to get there. And so the reason why I wanted to go by the moves of this match is because it was wonderfully done. The story between these two guys felt like they fought before. They might have fought before in like other situations, but I don't know. Nothing is coming to my mind. But the chemistry was there and everything just was very smooth. And like I said in the previous episode, that the reason why New Japan Pro Wrestling sees something in David Finlay, and they probably always seen something in David Finlay, is because David Finlay is adaptable. David Finlay went through the dojo system, took a lot of losses, went in a tag team that really didn't go very, very far because New Japan didn't know how to market them, and then gave David Finlay the reins to Bullet Club after everybody was gone and people decided to go on their merry way and go to other companies. And so now David Finlay has the opportunity to shine bright, and he has been shining bright, and that is due to creating Bullet Club War Dogs and how successful that is and how over everybody in Bullet Club is at this very moment. And when I say Bullet Club, I mean Bullet Club War Dogs. And so that is why New Japan Pro Wrestling sees in him. That's what they see in him, that he is very adaptable. He can be where he needs to be. He's a veteran in the ring. He's also a ring general. And I don't know if he's a locker room leader, but I would definitely be listening to him if I ever needed some advice, if I was a professional wrestler or just something I needed advice on in the wrestling business or something like that. I would listen to him, and I think other people will listen to him too. And like I said, Zack Sabre Jr. is a damn good technical wrestler, but I need something more from Zack Sabre Jr. than him being a wrestler. You could only go but so far by being a wrestler. You need to have the promo skills, a little bit something extra, some story fluff, if you want to call it a story fluff, just a little bit extra for people to be like, okay, I want to see what else he can do. David Finlay can create wonderful emotion with his body language and the moves that he applies and the way that he shit talks people inside the ring. Like, he has the full package. Zack Sabre Jr. needs to start doing some other things too, maybe talking shit to people. He's always have something to say. So why not start talking shit in the matches and some other stuff and just doing something that can be more than just Zack Sabre Jr., the technical wizard and the leader and creator of TMDK, the Mighty Don't Kneel. So with David Finlay winning and moving on to the finals, his match against Zack Sabre Jr. was so great that the upcoming NJPW Strong pay-per-view that happens after April, I believe, April 11th is Windy City Riot in Chicago. So when I say after April, I mean April. So when I say after April, I mean April 5th, which is Sakura Genesis, the pay-per-view for New Japan Pro Wrestling on NJPW World, which is going to have David Finlay versus Goto for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title. And if David Finlay is successful in that match against Goto, he will be putting his newly won, if he does win it, IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title on the line against Zack Sabre Jr. at Windy City Riot in Chicago, April 11th. Speaking of the New Japan Strong pay-per-views, why have they become so lackluster, man? Why? I think I need to do a live stream where I talk about the decline of the New Japan Strong pay-per-views. I already know why we only have the Strong pay-per-views. We don't have the weeklies anymore. I explained it in a previous episode where I was talking with Courtney Rice from Women's Wrestling Talk, and I was explaining why we no longer have that, but we only have the NJPW Strong pay-per-views. But I was quickly thinking about it because I was looking at the lineup. I was looking at the graphic match cards. And I really don't think we need Ishii versus Gabe Kidd for the NJPW Strong title. We really don't. This is what I talk about when I say that Ishii has done so much damage to his character and what he represents and all the lore and mystique that the Stone Pitbull represents is gone. That's thanks to AEW making him a loser on AEW Collision. But I get it. He wants to get the bag and wants to have money. I totally get that. But don't sacrifice it just to damage your reputation as a strong character, as a Stone Pitbull, where you can intimidate anybody on the roster at any time. But then also to see another graphic of having the West Coast Wrecking Crew to show up and have a tag team. They are dedicated tag team guys, and they are dedicated to New Japan Pro Wrestling no matter what. But people need to know who they are and how good of a tag team they are, and just keeping them there and having them there every show, it doesn't really do anything beneficial for them. They do take their own bookings, obviously, and they wrestle wherever they can and wherever around the world and around the United States. But it still kind of raises the question of, what are we really doing? What is the point of having the NJPW Strong pay-per-views if no other platform in wrestling, meaning like if AEW is not going to have some type of connectivity with the stories for the NJPW Strong people that go on the pay-per-views on a monthly basis, if there's no story being developed or being seen, then what is the point of still having the NJPW Strong pay-per-views? So when we had the weekly shows, that will lead up to the monthly pay-per-views, and that is when New Japan Pro Wrestling was starting to get a nice, good footing in the United States. And they started to pick up a little bit of steam. It started to be a very nice, decent momentum of steam when it came to NJPW. However, now that we no longer have the weekly shows, and if AEW, their partner in all of this, is not going to try and put them on Ring of Honor, which that would be a very stupid idea, or try to pitch to Warner Brothers Discovery like, hey, we have our partners, can we try to do something for them? They want to be in the US market, and that's going to be good for the whole ecosystem of professional wrestling and all of that. If they're not going to do that, then I think that eventually New Japan Pro Wrestling should just get rid of all of the strong stuff, just because it's a waste of time if all of the pay-per-views are going to be such poorly put together. And I'm not saying that the pay-per-view is not going to deliver, because you know you're going to have one person in the comments being like, oh, but the pay-per-views deliver. I have no doubt that the wrestlers are not going to deliver when I say this. I know the wrestlers are going to deliver. New Japan Pro Wrestling wrestlers give us the best matches that I have seen, and I will stand by that. They do a very good job of wrestling. They do a very good job of having a story inside the ring, and they know what they need to do. However, if we are going to continue to get very lackluster NJPW Strong pay-per-views just for stateside, just for the very small niche of fans that want to go out and see it, and I want to go and see a New Japan show too, but I don't have money to go over to Cali or Chicago or anything like that. But you guys can help me out, but that's not the point of this rant. If they want to have a footing within the US market, they really need to get more members and more people to work the offices of New Japan Pro Wrestling and do that like they did before. But if we're not going to go back to that kind of system, then there is no point to put out a pay-per-view every month where it looks lackluster and no one really cares about the matches afterwards, because the matches are not going to lead to a long-term story or even a 6-month story or even a 3-month story with the champions involved. For as long as Gabe Kidd has been NJPW Strong champion, he has not defended that belt on NJPW on Japan soil. Nobody has challenged him for that belt. And I think that the roster should challenge Gabe for that belt, whether they win or lose against him for that belt, just so that way the Japanese fans know that that belt is still around. And those of us that watch New Japan Pro Wrestling and talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, they too can know that it's still around and tell their audience that, hey, Gabe Kidd is still the champion. Gabe Kidd had a match against such and such. This is how it went. This is a very good thing. Now the story here could jump into path A, path B, path C. And that will make all of my podcasts very, very amazing and entertaining and fun to think about, because then we get into fantasy booking. Oh, and by the way, I'm not one of those fantasy bookers that if it doesn't go my way, oh my God, I'm going to throw a fit and throw a tantrum online. No, I'm like, okay, cool. It didn't go that way. Awesome. But we had a wonderful time talking about it with chat. Chat liked the idea. I liked the idea. It didn't happen. Oh, well, let's move on. Let's go see what they're going to do. But it does bring up conversations, because if you want to be the best in this business and if you want to stay relevant and if you have a championship title, you should either be defending it or, you know, have the target on your back, have some vignettes, have some promo time, have people come after you and you try to get away. Just some things so that people could be like, oh, the champion. Okay, so who's going to be next in line? I just think that there should be a little bit more planning behind New Japan Strong pay-per-views, make it feel something special for the stateside, because it just feels like, oh, we got a pay-per-view. Okay, we'll have a pay-per-view in another 3 months. And no stories accumulate to what happens in the next 3 months. Nothing really. Just really thrown together, some matches here, some matches there. We're getting this match because insert wrestler here talk shit. We're getting this match because it's just a rematch from NJPW World. Oh my God. And it's like, you got to do more. You got to care more about the wrestlers. You got to care more about the product. How are you running a business when you don't really care about the product? How are you doing that? And then when passionate fans and people who work in the business, myself, Marie Shadows, offer criticism, it's taken as if I'm trolling, bad faith, I'm a grifter, I'm this, I'm that, when I'm like, I want to see New Japan Pro Wrestling succeed. I really do. I want them to succeed in Japan. I want them to succeed in America, because again, when we have more wrestling promotions out here, we have a really huge pool of workers. We have a really huge pool of people who are passionate and a really huge pool of creating amazing stories. This is why, not to bring up WWE in the finals of this New Japan Cup tournament, but there's a reason why everybody wants to work with WWE, is because now they are playing fair. I know you may not like that comment. You may disagree with me, but like I said in previous episodes, WWE is not doing underhanded shit so obvious like AEW that it makes it look as if the business has become super carny, but now on a very widespread level. So of course, WWE is always going to have their flaws, but right now they are playing fair with the people that they are in partnership with, and they're sending people that do not have anything to do creatively on the WWE roster over to their partners, so that way we could create some buzz with this. Like, imagine if the NJPW Strong Tag Team Champions, which is the West Coast Wrecking Crew, Royce Isaacs, Jor-El Nelson. I probably butchered his first name. I am so sorry if you listen to this. Imagine if those two went to different companies to put those belts on the line and defended them, and then also got the call to head over to New Japan Pro Wrestling and be part of the tag team division and defend those titles as well, have some new opportunities. Again, even if there is so many losses, because we could tell it's predictable by now that someone is really not going to dethrone them if they went over to NJPW soil or they went to other companies. You never know. Sometimes things could get unpredictable, but for this conversation, It'll be predictable. But the idea is that your champions are working. Your champions are showcasing the belts that they have won of their respected companies that they love. That's all we should ask for in the world of professional wrestling. If you have a championship title, show it off. Create some YouTube shorts or TikToks or something to keep relevant, and then try to get booked and try to put that belt on the line and put the reputation of the company on the line too, because you are representing the company. You love the company. They made you a champion. They saw something in you. But for some reason, when it comes to the Strong titles, it's like they don't care about the titles because they no longer have the weekly show. So again, I ask, how do you continue to present something when you don't have the passion behind it to actually see it through, and you're just like, oh, we got a Strong pay-per-view, you guys want to come out, here are the matches. We got to stop doing things half-ass in wrestling. Okay, let's jump back into the New Japan Cup semifinal for March 17, 2025, that has Shingo Takagi versus Shota Umino. This match showed off Shota Umino wrestling against Shingo Takagi. As I said before, Shota Umino knows how to wrestle. He knows how to set up his matches. And with Shingo being there, Shingo is also great at doing so too, and leading the crowd into an emotional roller coaster. So both men are well within their wrestling ability to do this. So they start off with wrestling, a test of strength, a headlock. They're still wrestling. We get a rope break, and Shota is now working Shingo's leg. We get a DDT. Shingo did that to Shota. That sends Shota over the top rope. We get a huge senton to Shota by Shingo. Some kicks to Shota. A mean forearm exchange. Shingo with wrist control. Again, guys, wrist control is very important in wrestling matches. And Shingo was about to pull an Undertaker and walk the rope. But Shota was like, I'm not waiting here for that, and pulled him down and basically ended the dream of what could have been a very interesting move for Shingo. And as Shota does this to Shingo by pulling him down for the top rope, that's how he escapes the wrist control that Shingo had. We get a neck breaker, fisherman suplex pin. We get the STF. Shota has been doing the STF on his opponents, which is very interesting. Just because I'm like, hey, John Cena does the STF. John Cena made the STF a little bit more famous than everybody else that has done it. So it's interesting that Shota would do the STF. We got some more wrist control, a lariat, a fallback elbow, a huge powerbomb. Shota kicks out of that, and Shingo ends up putting the STF on Shota. During the match, we also get a huge top rope superplex from Shingo to Shota. Shingo goes over for the cover, 1-2, and Shota kicks out. Those big superplexes that happen off the top rope are very, very devastating. They also look very, very clean too when they do it. A little bit later on in the match, we get a sliding lariat into the pumping bomber, and Shota kicks out of that one. We get some running of the ropes to create some speed, a lariat, a count of one, again in the previous podcast episodes and in the earlier New Japan Cup matches. This thing was becoming a thing by kicking out at one to show that you have extra strength and you're like, I'm not going to give up, but eventually you get beat, and it's like, that doesn't really work. We got to stop that, guys. Those really powerful kickouts where they kick out at one have to be planned a little bit differently for their matches. Not every match should have it, and not every old school NJPW veteran, Japanese veteran, should be doing that in the matches. But this is what we get. We get some running the ropes, I should say, to get some speed. A lariat, a count of one, another lariat, another count of one, and they try again to where Shingo kicks out. And then towards the ending, we get the second chapter, which is the delayed fisherman suplex from Shota Umino to Shingo Takagi. Go over 1, 2, 3, and Shota has a victory over Shingo. This match from start to finish was good. It had a slow build up, it had a good middle, and a very fast pace towards the end. And that's the kind of match that you want for the wrestling fans to be on this roller coaster of a ride. You always want them in the peaks and the valleys of matches like this. So again, Shota goes over And now our finals are set, which is David Finlay versus Shota Umino. Again, Shota Umino has the full package. He is really good. He's just having a midlife crisis at the age of like barely 50 and shaved his head and can't get over his past with Jon Moxley and beat Claudio Castagnoli at Wrestle Dynasty, and yet they have not done anything story-wise, which is such a shame. Such a shame. Well, ladies and gentlemen, join me for talking about the NJ Cup, the New Japan Cup finals of March 20th, 2025, which the only match, the main event, the only thing that matters is David Finlay versus Shota Umino. This was a fantastic match to showcase what both of them can do. David Finlay is obviously going to be playing dirty here. Shota Umino is going to be doing what he knows best and what he can do. I believe Shota Umino can play dirty if he wanted to. I just really haven't seen it as much as anyone else. But because David Finlay is representing Bullet Club, of course, Bullet Club got Bullet Club Tactics, which I created, which was a way of saying that they do dirty shit in front of you, not in front of you, obvious, not obvious, but they do dirty stuff. So we get to a clean break because both of these guys did the collar and elbow tie-up. It was a stalemate until David Finlay pushes Shota back to the ropes. And of course, they had to have a clean break by referee Reshu Uno. We get a big shoulder tackle to Shota by David. We get the fundamentals happening, meaning the run the ropes, drop down, leapfrog, all that kind of stuff. Shota starts going after David Finlay's leg because he tripped him. Shota has been very good about going after body parts of his opponents, and I am very proud of that. I'm very proud of him for doing that because wrestlers nowadays on the indies forget about working a body part and how important it is to work a body part. You can create massive story within your match by working on a body part, knowing that if your opponent is very strong in the arms and they use their arms to lift you and lift everything else, and all of their moveset requires arms and chest and their core, their midsection, and if you work on that during the whole match, you have a 90% chance of winning the match. If your opponent uses their leg strength for everything, that they fly around the ring, if they kick you, if they are a master at something using their legs, using their hips, if you take out their strong base, you have a 90% chance of winning. But wrestlers on the indies want to get their shit in and want to flip everywhere and have a gymnastics contest and a dancing contest and not a wrestling match. And they want to have viral moments rather than bringing the crowd on a roller coaster of emotions. That's exactly what happened here with Shota Umino versus David Finlay. They brought the crowd in on a bunch of emotions. And again, I'm going to say it that Shota working on David Finlay's leg and lately have been working on other wrestlers' body parts are a good thing. And David understands this. So in order to get away from Shota working on David's leg, there's another clean break. David's in the ropes. That's how we get the clean break. David goes in, throws Shota against the ropes throat first. Russian leg sweep. Goes for a cover and kicks out at 2. Then we have David sending Shota into the turnbuckle. We have Shota chopping Finlay to create some space, to create some more offense on Shota's side. But Finlay just bites Shota because it's dirty tactics, as always. We get some kicks to David's leg, a neck breaker to David. Shota is now controlling David's leg. Goes into the submission of the STF, and that puts more pressure on his calf and also his hamstring because it's stretching it out. But David Finlay gets to the rope break. Finlay rolls through. We get a pin. Shota kicks out. We get a backbreaker to Shota on David's bad leg. That was a bad call from David, but David did it anyway because it's like a move is a move is a move. And so we get spine first because David over here had sent Shota out into the outside where the fans are at, and he takes Shota and rams him back first into the steel ring post. And then we get a table spot. So David Finlay cleans off the table, where the bell is rung and uses that. He picks up Shota Umino and choke slams Shota Umino through the table. And of course, Red Shoes is allowing this. The referee is allowing this. There is DQ, but a DQ was not called. And the reason for that is because it's the main event. It would have sent a lot of people home very, very angry. Most of the time in New Japan Pro Wrestling, they want to have a definitive winner because they believe in storytelling, they believe in prolonging the matches, and they want to send the fans home happy. For all the time that Bullet Club and House of Torture have done all the shenanigans, every single match would have been ended in DQ, and they would have been in the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most DQs if Red Shoes Uno and every other referee, including Marty, the referee that always takes a referee bump whenever he's reffing a evil match or a House of Torture match. That guy needs a raise. But all the DQs combined between House of Torture and Bullet Club themselves will be in the Guinness Book of World Record if these referees decided to call a DQ every single time. By the way, I was not expecting a table spot to happen in this match against David Finlay and Shota Umino, but it did. Shota Umino goes through the table. And after all of that, Shota manages to get back into the ring. I am going to skip ahead in my notes because I want to touch on another cool spot in this match. It's David Finlay running at full force and Shota getting his whereabouts, his surroundings, because he's dazed at this very moment, and just picks up his knee, and David Finlay runs into Shota Umino's knee. Now, this was done so smoothly that it was like this was meant to be the next move that should be happening as a defense, where you just pick up your leg or your arm or something and somebody runs into it because you counter them, because David Finlay was going for a spear so that way he can do the spear to Shota Umino in the corner and hurt him some more. But Shota was like, I'm going to get the knee up. And that's exactly what he did. That's the coolest looking spot in that match. And it had everybody gasping. I gasped as well. Really, really cool spot. Now, David Finlay recovers from this, obviously, but not like a 2-second recover, but he recovers from it to the point where towards the finish of the match, we get into oblivion. That's where Shota kicks out. We get a counter again into a counter. And then that move that David Finlay does, where I believe it's called overkill, where he takes the guy and it's like a suplex, but not a suplex. He brings him down chest first into his knee. And David goes for the pin, 1, 2, 3. And David wins the New Japan Cup. And again, I have already said congratulations to David Finlay for winning the New Japan Cup. But on this podcast episode, congratulations to David Finlay for becoming the 2025 New Japan Cup winner. Now, there is something that I want to talk about. After the match, Shota Umino managed to stand up by help of David Finlay, I believe. And David Finlay pushes him to the ropes and just grabs his face and basically tells him that if you want to be a winner, you should follow me. And I'm probably paraphrasing it, but David Finlay was giving him an option, an idea, maybe, or just an option to maybe choose Bullet Club War Dogs to be a part of his team. David Finlay knows when he sees people that are great, but people that just don't have a platform or a spotlight put on them, and that's exactly what he did with Bullet Club War Dogs. Clark Connors is a very good wrestler. So is Gabe Kidd, so was Alex Coughlin, and so is Jilla Maloney. And those guys just needed a chance to showcase what they can do, and look how over they are. With Shota Umino's case, Shota needs a new identity. He has the pressure of becoming something that is very cliche. He has the pressure of everyone in New Japan Pro Wrestling telling him that he's the ace, he's this, he's that, and giving him an ego. And it's like, you guys need to understand that he has to find his own character. And sometimes being with David Finlay, because he understands the pressure of being a generational wrestler like Shota Umino. Even though Red Shoes is not a wrestler but a referee, is still generational because they're in the wrestling business. And because David Finlay understands that pressure, being with him could help Shota Umino. Imagine if Shota did join Bullet Club War Dogs. There is a mean side to Shota Umino. It's just that he has to show how good he is. And when I say good, I mean like a goody two shoes, like a baby face. Not good in terms of wrestling skills, because we all know how good he is. But David Finlay could help unlock a lot of potential with Shota Umino. And the fans are pushing for a heel run for Shota Umino, but I don't think it's appropriate just yet. I really don't think so. I think that after Shota Umino rids himself of Jon Moxley and the Death Riders, because his theme song has to change. It can't be the same way if you're going to be joining Bullet Club War Dogs and be like, okay, I'm a new character now. Again, it will be the third chapter, I guess. He has to get rid of the past. He needs to fight Jon Moxley. He needs to dethrone Jon Moxley from AEW and from his life. And he also needs to fight Tanahashi to get rid of that baby face too. Because if we notice, like I said, his character work before shaving his head was a combination of Jon Moxley and Tanahashi. The fans loved him. And he came out just like Jon Moxley with the jacket, and that was a symbolization of, this is my mentor, this is what I'm going with. But Jon Moxley never gave a shit about Shota Umino. Never did. And if he does, it's not there. It really isn't. How do you send Claudio Castagnoli to go over to New Japan Pro Wrestling for Wrestle Dynasty and get defeated? And then nothing happens in the story. So nobody really cares. Nobody remembers what is happening story-wise when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW. We remember. I remember, because I still think that the appropriate story path is to go and have Shota Umino on this journey to find himself and to rid himself of the past so he can truly embrace the blank canvas of his wrestling gear, including the hoodie that he wears and comes out with every single time he has a match. That blank canvas needs to be a part of this story, this journey of him cleansing himself of the past. Very, very symbolic. It needs to be symbolic. But for some reason, that won't happen in the wrestling business. That won't happen between AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. I have no idea why. I am still going to be along for the ride. I am still going to be intrigued. I do find the opportunity to give Shota Umino the option of following David Finlay for him to be a champion and for him to learn from Finlay on how to have better matches. And I don't mean better matches because I mean, like, I say that he has really good wrestling skills and stuff like that, but he still needs to be polished just a little bit more, and then he can become a really good asset to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's a really good asset. I hope you guys know what I mean when I say that, but he needs to be polished. He's not there yet. He's almost there. He is. And yes, I am a big advocate for Shota Umino. Shota Umino has a very good standing in New Japan Pro Wrestling and a very good wrestler. As far as David Finlay winning the New Japan Cup, this is his ticket now to go and face Goto during Sakura Genesis, April 9th. It's going to be on the New Japan World. It is their pay-per-view. And this is his ticket to get the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title. I will say this now, even though I could be wrong. And if I am wrong in the future, that's totally okay. That's totally fine. So I think that when it comes to April 9th, for Sakura Genesis, I think that David Finlay should win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title. And that's not because I want to discredit Goto. I love Goto. It's just that he won it. Awesome. We celebrate. Nobody could take that away from him. Nobody could take away the title reign, even though he didn't really get started with it. That is not being taken away. The fact is that I think that Finlay will eventually go to WWE just because there seems to be this disconnect between wrestlers and their stories and how New Japan Pro Wrestling is playing the chess game, and nothing is making sense. It's not feeling like this is New Japan Pro Wrestling, so think about New Japan Pro Wrestling only, and these are the stories that we are providing. David is making all of his stories interesting. Bullet Club War Dogs is making all of their stories interesting, even if I feel a little disappointed in Gabe Kidd because going over to AEW, talking shit for the sake of talking shit, watering down his character, and then coming back to NJPW and being like, fuck AEW, fuck WWE, Shinny Home Pro Wrestling is number one, and being like New Japan is number one, and it's like, I don't know if I believe you at this very moment, but I'm going to continue to watch how things unfold. Like, I love it all, and I critique it while giving suggestions, and I don't want anyone to think like I hate them or anything like that. I don't know them personally, but talking about it from a character standpoint, I just think that's not really the good option, especially if the partners, AEW, don't give a shit about New Japan Pro Wrestling and don't give a shit about you and your character and your legacy. Like, for Clark Connors to get a payday just to take a loss. Like, what? What are we doing here? These guys from New Japan Pro Wrestling could be a very good asset to the wrestlers in AEW and create wonderful stories, go back and forth between the American soil and the Japanese soil. But no, that doesn't happen. I don't understand. So the main point is that I just have a feeling that Finlay will eventually go to WWE, and that'll be amazing. And the guys in Bullet Club War Dogs will have to make whatever decisions that they're going to make. And if they do decide to end up going to WWE, which would be the better option and the better expansion for who they are, would be amazing. But you never know. I just want the best for these guys because these guys can tell stories. I could get lost in it. I could get immersed in their storytelling ability. And they all have a very good sensibility about them. And at the end of the day, it's what they're going to do best for themselves. But David Finlay is such an all-around worker. So is Driller Maloney, Gabe Kidd, and Clark Connors. And I'm giving them the highest of the highest praise because they have been the background characters for so long. And now they have the opportunity to shine bright, and that's exactly what they're doing. Now, Goto, I love you. Goto makes amazing matches, and he has amazing storytelling ability, and I appreciate the way that he has his matches with various competitors in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But I do think that it's time to give David Finlay the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title, not out of participation if anybody is going to comment that, but it's time for a new era. It's time to bring up ticket sales. It's time to bring up merchandise sales. It's time to really get down and think about the stories that they want to tell. I was going to say we want to tell. The stories that they want to tell, the stories that should feel the most important for New Japan Pro Wrestling to get back up on its legs. And eventually cut the fucking partnership with AEW because it is not being beneficial at all. How many story opportunities are they missing? They're missing a lot. You know, today on Twitter, because right now it is March 26, 2025, I basically said something that rings true to a lot of people because somebody had asked, how the heck did AEW miss out on Mercedes versus Saraya feud with a crying face? And by the way, it is DS from Ring the Bell. I have nothing but positive stuff to say about him. This isn't shade to him, but I wanted to bring it up and just bring up my response to it because I think it does fall into the same mindset as to why the AEW and New Japan partnership still is not really working out and how it's one-sided and how Tony Khan likes to poach a lot of talent and buying the talent and making all these promises and letting wrestlers do whatever they want when wrestlers need some direction and some guidance. So I just wanted to bring the mindset to this podcast episode, and not, again, no shade towards DS from Ring the Bell. He does an amazing job about his content, his wrestling content. So go support him if you support me as well. Just go support him too. So I responded to him by saying, AEW is super unorganized and don't smell money the same as good bookers and promoters in the business. They smell star ratings only, and that doesn't bring in cash nor fans. And that's where I'm going to stop, because then I was like, however, this would be a great question to ask TK at the next media scrum to get insight into his mind, even though one of my mutuals decided to put a parody of Tony Khan's response down below, which was 100% spot on. The idea that AEW is super unorganized is very, very true. And they don't smell money the same way as good bookers and promoters do in the business, because feuds between NJPW and AEW would sell. However, the toxicity of AEW with management and also their fan base, and the way that they watered down the NJPW wrestlers when they get to AEW and be put on AEW Collision, creates a really bad image for New Japan. And that is why fans don't want to really support NJPW in any capacity. And the fact that they try to do some type of crossovers with some type of feuds, the NJPW wrestlers are always losing. So there goes the fact of that, oh, he can't smell money because he can't really book it appropriately. And also have the NJPW management on the phone and the booker on the phone and being like, hey, I'm going to send over such and such guy, create some story over there because this is what happened in AEW. Also, the fact that we know that NJPW does the Japanese dubbing for AEW Dynamite and Collision and Ring of Honor, all those episodes are on the NJPW world. How much is that translating to the fans to be like, oh my God, I want to see this AEW wrestler? It feels absolutely zero. It does. It feels like a two-way street where like both fans don't really care about the other products. Because again, having Wrestle Kingdom week in Tokyo, as always, because of the Tokyo Dome, I've said this before, that wrestling fans are different depending on where you go in Japan. In Tokyo, they know about professional wrestling. They just don't know it to probably the extent of like our knowledge and how much we know behind the scenes, but they know enough. The Japanese fans know enough. When all the AEW wrestlers came out, nobody cared. Nobody cheered. It was all crickets. It was really, really uncomfortable to hear silence whenever the AEW wrestlers come out. And that tells you a lot. So again, if you can't smell money, then I don't know. And then the second part of that of they smell star ratings only, and that doesn't bring in cash nor fans. When you constantly go towards David Metzler's star ratings, which by the way, I got merchandise on star ratings if you guys want to check that out over at my Fourth Wall website. But when you completely go with David Metzler and his star ratings, and he gives star ratings out to everybody in AEW, those don't count for nothing. They're not going to bring in cash. They're not going to bring in fans. They're not going to bring in cheers and boos. They're not going to do a goddamn thing. And this is where that mindset is still there. The AEW fans don't care about New Japan Pro Wrestling. The New Japan fans in Japan don't really care about the AEW wrestlers. And it shows, because if you get no response, and it has changed over the years, by the way, because I know somebody might jump in the comments and be like, oh, well, if they're silent, that means they respect you. Yes. Oh, so many years ago. But ever since, it probably started really, really heavy when like Kenny Omega was there. But I would think that some of the other foreigners that were there before Kenny Omega was trying to get the fans involved into what they do. But I really do think it was like Kenny Omega that was like being instrumental in getting the fans to create emotion and clap and yell. And it just became a thing of now they cheer. And we're not talking about pandemic days where they couldn't do that. That has nothing to do with the conversation. Don't even bring it up. But the bigger picture is that now that fans are able to cheer and they're able to call out their favorite wrestler, none of them did that for the AEW wrestlers. And I say this point over and over and over again because we can see this all in real time. We can experience this all in real time. Even if we're not there personally, you can experience it in real time if you were to get a subscription to NJPW World, if you were to listen to what myself and maybe some others who want to tell the truth say, and we see it in real time. We see it in tweets. We see it in a lot of things. And if this isn't addressed, then the disrespect to New Japan Pro Wrestling is still going to remain. And if this is not addressed, then it's still going to keep happening in the partnership between New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW. And that is where I'm probably going to wrap up the rant right here, only because I may have lost the point, but I hope that you understood where I'm coming from by mentioning all of this. As much as I like the fact that Goto finally won the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship title, that will forever be one of the most important milestones in Goto's entire career. I am going to be extremely honest. We need someone right now that we can market to, so that way American fans can get a subscription to NJPW and learn about NJPW and continue to talk about NJPW, so that way fans can be interested in learning. If you guys enjoyed this episode of the Square Circle Podcast by your host, Marie Shadows, I do think that the NJPW subscription is worth it. It is to watch any kind of New Japan show that you want. I do think that they need to improve their behind the scenes of NJPW World by making their SEO stronger, because I worked on the WWE Network by doing that exact same thing. Because sometimes when you type in specific searches into the search bar, it doesn't pop up. And then when you maybe just put a single name of a wrestler, it may pop up. But yeah, their back catalog needs to be strengthened. I have skills in SEO strengthening, so I don't know, New Japan, hit me up, because I already talked about it with somebody else that's on your team, but never got back to me. But yeah, if you guys need help with your SEO for the NJPW World website, I'm available. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I really do think that because we have David Finlay as the NJPW New Japan Cup tournament winner, he should definitely win the IWGP Championship title and usher in a new era of New Japan Pro Wrestling to get people talking, to get people buzzing, and to get marketing going. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. If you enjoyed this, share it out. Like it over on youtube.com/Square Circle Podcast. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment if you have any comments at all. If you are on Spotify, you can hit that follow button so you never miss a notification ever again. And you could also leave a comment on there too. Search Square Circle Podcast by Marie Shadows on Spotify. If you're over on the newsletter side of things, marieshadows.substack.com, which is a free wrestling newsletter with extra content, some extra pictures, some polls, and even an invitation to our private wrestling group chat, which is on Substack chat. So marieshadows.substack.com. You could also leave a comment. I respond to everything. Check out the Fourth Wall membership, the merchandise, and also the tape study roadmap if you are interested. Again, all links down in the description box below. I understand that everyone loves Patreon and everyone goes to Patreon, but Fourth Wall just has everything for me, so that way I'm not telling you to go to this link for this, go to that link for that. I have everything in one website for you to check out and for you to support the Square Circle Podcast by Marie Shadows. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the complete wrap-up of the New Japan Cup that included the semifinals and the finals. And again, congratulations to David Finlay for winning the New Japan Cup of 2025. And I hope to see you guys in the next one.